Kadosh, Boker Or. Masechet Gittin Daf Bet Amud Aleph 52a. Says the Mishnah, Yetomim shesamchu etzel balabait. What does that mean? Right? And mitchabru me'atzmam to somebody that he was going to become their balabait. So he was there like a potupos, he was their manager, he was coming and taking care of their properties. Or their father made for them this agent, right? That he's going to be the one that's in charge of the properties. Chayav le'aser perotehem. So he's obligated to take off maaser from their fruits. Okay? Apotropos sheminahu aviyu yetomim. Right now, an apotropos that the father of the yetomim made them in charge. Yishava. He has to swear that he didn't leave anything by him. Yes, I swear that nothing is left by him. Minu betin, but if the betin were the ones that appointed him as like the trustee, lo yishava, he does not have to swear. Abba Shaul says, chilufa devarim. What does it mean, chilufa devarim? Exact opposite. Beforehand, we said that if it was a father, you have to swear. Betin, you don't have to swear. Says Abba Shaul, the opposite. If it's a father, you do not have to swear. The betin, you do have to swear. Okay, that's a Mishnah. Now comes the Gemara. Says the Gemara, we're going to ask a contradiction of that which we just said, that the apotropos could come and separate trumot umasrot from the fruits of the yitomim. Urminu, we have a contradiction. It says, Ken tarimu gam atem trumat Hashem. What does it mean, atem? When it says the words that you guys have to come and separate the trumot, okay? Velo shutafim. It has to be you guys and not shutafim, right? Which means that one shutaf, one partner, cannot take off trumot masrot on another partner's shares without his permission. Okay, that's what they learn. Atem, you guys have to do it. Velo shutafim. Okay. Next, atem, velo arisim. You guys have to take off the trumot masrot, and not an aris. An aris is a sharecropper that he used to take, whether it's going to be a half, third, or a quarter of the produce. That was his salary. Huh? That's an aris. But he used to take a half, a third, or a quarter of the produce. And it says over here, right, that this aris cannot be torem on the chelek of the balabait without permission. Okay? Fine. Then it says, atem, velo potopim. You guys, non-apotropos. So here you see that an apotropos cannot be torem on the fruits of the yitomim, right? And this is all learned from the word atem. You guys have to do it, not anybody else. So atem and not a sharecropper, atem and not a partner, atem and not an apotropos. Velo atorem et sheno shelo. The same halacha would apply, that mimela you cannot take off the trumot masrot for something that's not yours. So therefore, the Gemara is going to ask, here it's mefurash in the Braita, that an apotropos cannot come and take off trumot masrot for the yetomim, for anybody. And you just told me in our Mishnah that he's supposed to take off the maaser, right? Trumot masrot for the yetomim. What's going on? Yeah, that's what the Gemara asks. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Chasta, la kashya, it's not a question. Kan leha'achil, kan le'aniach. What does that mean? Our Mishnah that says that an apotropos is obligated to take off the trumot masrot, we're talking about a case where he wants to give the rest of the fruits to the yitomim to eat. Now, they cannot eat untithed produce. They cannot eat tevel. So now, one second, but who's going to give the trumot masrot? So therefore, the apotropos is allowed to give up the trumot masrot in order that they could eat. However, though, this Braita is talking about la'aniach. What does it mean la'aniach? The apotropos does not have the power in his hands, the ability to take off trumot masrot in order to leave over the fruits in an otzar, in a storage place, right? In such a case, since the yitomim could take it off themselves after they become bigger, so therefore there's no reason why the apotropos could do it. Which means like this. Right now, they need to eat. So if they need to eat, how are they going to eat? They cannot eat tevel. So what do? You tell the potupos bechavot. And he comes and he takes off the tumot masrot, and then they eat. Any yatomim, right? No, if it's going to be a gadol already, he could do it himself, obviously, right? But right, what happens now is that what happens if he's not eating it? He's coming, he's going to put it in a storage house. Now, many times, remember, we're talking about grains. So many times, grains, you could come and you could leave it there for a very long time, right? There's no, you have to do now. So the Braita comes and he tells you, the Putupus has no rights to take off the Tumot Masut. Why are you taking off Tumot Masut? Leave it for the Yitomim. When they become older, let them take care of it. What are you taking it off? You have no rights to take it off. If they have to eat right now, okay, so take it off in order that they could eat. But to come and start telling them, you can't do that. Okay? So says the Gemara, what's the raya? What's the proof to such a case? He comes and he says, Vatanya. Now, if you remember, look in Rashi. Rashi says, Vatanya benichuta. Remember, whenever the Gemara says Vatanya, Vatanya could be used in two ways. Either as a question, right, which means that Rashi will say bitmiha, like it's a tamiyah, it's a question, or benichuta. Benichuta is Vatanya, as we learned in a Braita. Vatanya, you can learn it, Vatanya, it's not true. Or you can learn it, Vatanya, as we learned in a Braita, exactly what you just said. That's called benichuta, which means that it's going to be brought as a proof. So therefore, many times Rashi will teach you which one's which. Meaning, is this Braita going to be a question, or is it going to be a proof to what we just mentioned? So Vatanya, as we learned in a Braita, there's a proof. Hapotropin torminu maasin laachil velo laniach mefurash. The Braita says, and Apotropos could come, and he could take Tumot Masrot, right? For what? He could take Tumot Masrot, right? For eating purposes, but not for lehaniach purposes. Not for any purposes of which is going to be for leaving over. But if not, you could leave the Yitomim. The Yitomim will do it themselves later on. Then the Braita continues, and the Braita says, Omochrim lahem behemah, which means that Potopos, they're allowed to sell for the Yitomim, behemah, avadim, shfachot, batim, sadot, uframim. They're allowed to sell all these things. Whether it's going to be an animal, it's going to be a slave or a maidservant, right? They could sell houses, fields, vineyards. They could sell anything that they need just to feed them. La'achil, just to feed them. Aval lo la'aniach, but not to leave them money. Meaning, imagine right now the Potopos comes and he says, you know what? I think that the real estate is going to go down. So I'm going to sell everything. And I put it for them in the bank. Right? That's called la'aniach. I'm not allowed to do nothing to la'aniach. Only la'achil. La'achil is, he could sell in order to what? To eat. But to sell, to leave over, you're not allowed to. Right? Umochrin lahen. And they're going to sell, right, for them. Perot, yenot, shemanim. Right? Uslatot, achil, same thing. Could sell fruits, right? Wines, oils, flowers, everything la'achil. Give to eat. Aval lo la'aniach, but not la'aniach. Again, all these things is, right, and when the second is going to be la'aniach, right, we're not going to do that. Why? Because basically they don't have that power. Okay? Meaning that until now is that everything that we always come and we're always talking about, right, they have the power of doing it because they need to eat now. Anything which becomes tangible, which is money, right, could be stolen, could disappear. So it's a very easy to filter out money, right? To steal lav dafka from him, anybody else also. The second that you made it in cash, it could be stolen. If it's a field, it cannot be stolen. It's very difficult to steal a field. You understand? But cash is very easy to steal. So therefore, the second that they're going to make, so now again, if they need to eat, what are you going to do? Let them starve? No. So yeah, sell it in order that they can have what to eat. But in order to come into, la'aniach, no, that we don't let them. So, right? They'll sell lahen, what the post can make with their money, lulav, arava, sukkah, sisit, b'chol davar sheyesh lo kitzbah, or anything which is going to have, right, a kitzbah, right? Why did it say lulav, arava? Why didn't it bring down an etrog or hadas? No. למה לא? It does very טוב. Let me put this on the pause because this is embarrassing. He says lulav, va'arava. We're talking about lulav and the arava, right? And we're talking about here, the arava is talking about on the Oshana Rabbah, sukkah, sisit, the whole davar sheyesh lo kitzbah, or anything which has a kitzbah. Says the Gemara, la tuyemai. What is it coming to include? When it says whole davar sheyesh lo kitzbah, you already told me all the things. You told me lulav, arava, sukkah, tzitzit. What else are you wanting to include? Shofar. Also, you could buy a shofar with the money of the Yitomim in order that they could have a shofar. Velochin lahem, and we're also going to purchase for them Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot, whole davar sheyesh lo kitzbah. And if he has a kitzbah, again, the Gemara is going to say, what is that coming to include? If you just told me now you can buy a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot, which is stam, right? So therefore, obviously, what is the whole davar sheyesh lo kitzbah? Latuye Megillah, Megillat Esther, buy for them as well. Ve'en poskim alehem tzedakah. You do not come and you do not put on them, right, the chiyuv to give tzedakah, just like you give to everybody else, which means, right, if everybody in the city has to give tzedakah, and they go around every single day and they collect a certain amount every single week or every single month or whatever it is, they don't have to give this tzedakah. Okay? Ve'en podim alehem et hashvuyin. Yeah. And the yitomim. Ve'en podim alehem et hashvuyin. We don't take the money of the yitomim to do pidyon shvuyin. Yeah? So he says over here, velo kol davar she'en lo kitzbah, anything which does not have a kitzbah. What is that coming to include? La'atuye tanchumei avelim, right? Because also there's no chiyuv for the yitomim to be mishtatef, to do with the entire concept of the seudah. They used to make a very big seudah in the house of the avel, in order that people should come and they forget a little bit about their like to calm them down from their avelut. So therefore also, right, well, they don't have to put money towards that. ואין אפוטרופים רשאים לדון, לחוב ולזכות, right, בנכסי יתומים. The same halacha would apply that the apotropos, he cannot stand for the yitom, whether it's going to be for the chovah or for the zechut. Doesn't matter. He's not representing them. He cannot come and say, I'm their lawyer and I'm their, their big shot or whatever it is, and now I'm representing them. No, doesn't know. Ask the Gemara, lezakot my law. One second. I understand lechovah. I understand because kilu you're representing, and if I never sent you to represent me, and you're coming and you're putting your foot in it, right? Whoever told you to make you into what's it called? You understand? Into my shaliach, right? There's actually a famous phrase in Aramaic that the shaliach, that the person could tell a shaliach, I sent you to fix something for me, not to make it worse for me. Meaning certain times, right? If I come and I send you to do something, and then you put your foot, you do something. I didn't send you for that. You know my shaliach. You were my work for me, but I sent you to do something good for me, not to make it worse for me. So if you're going to do something on your own accord, I apologize. Nothing to do with me. So I understand that apotropos, you can't do something with chovah, makes sense. But lezakot, why not? So he says, ella, but rather, lachuv zal menat lizkot v'nichsei yitomim. He says, lachuv is al menat lizkot, which means if the apotropos will go down, the zakot, and what happens if they went down and at the end they lost? So that became l'chuvah, which means you never know what's going to happen in the verdict. So if you're going to let him to go down and kilu, I'm going to win the case, and then afterwards he loses, what do you do now? And you say, no, now it's not valid. You can't do that. It's either it's valid or it's not valid. You can't play around. You understand? Fine. Says the Braita. Ve'en apotroposin rasha'im limkor berachok veligol bekarov bira'ah veligol biyafa. It says if they have a karka vitomim, which is far away, and he wants to sell it in order to purchase something which is closer, or it's a bad field, and he wants to purchase something, right, in order that it should be a good field. Yeah, he comes and he says, you're not allowed to do that. My tama, what's the reasoning why not? He says, the dilma mishtadfin. He says, maybe we're going to suspect that now the new ones are going to be, right, the new ones are going to become bad. They're going to get, flooded in or whatever it is. And therefore, right, we don't want to do that. Which means that the second you change their mazal, it might become a problem. You understand? Sometimes people, their mazal is sleeping, right? So they're not awake. Right? You have to wake up the mazal. Once you wake up the mazal, all of a sudden everything changes. Yeah, it changes everything.
רבי יהושע אומר, בן אדם
אין אפוטרופין רשאים למכור שדות ולקח עבדים. An apotropos, right, is not allowed to come and he's not allowed to sell fields or to purchase slaves, right? Because it's not a proper hachlafa, right? Which is something because, it's going to be leolam, as if to say. But they are allowed to sell slaves and purchase fields. Rashbag says, not even that. My tama, what's reasoning? Maybe the fields that are going to come, right? They're not going to be shaket, right? They're not going to, sometimes people come, you think that they're quiet, and all of a sudden they come and they, you bought a field and you thought you bought yourself shaket. It's a shaket, כל הזמן מבלבלים במוח, באים וזה. מכיסאות. בדיוק. מתלוננים, גמרא, זה. ואין אפוטרופין רשאים להוציא עבדים. He's not allowed to come and he's not allowed to take out the avadim lecherut, to freedom. He's not allowed to liberate them. He comes and he says, "Aval mochrin otan la'acherim," but you could sell them to other people. Acherim motziim otan la'acherim. Other people could free them. Rabbi comes and he says, I'm going to say, afu noten demei atzmo. He could give also his own money. V'yotzeh. But he's selling it to himself, meaning that the Eved could give the money to the apotropos and then he could go out free. Because then it's kilu, he's selling himself. Okay? Now, once they become big, now he has to sit with them and start doing all these things. And he's going to have to swear that he has nothing in his hands. Rashbag says he doesn't need to do that. Because again, all these things, we suspect that since he was in power of position, right, he was a position of power, he's going to come and he's going to abuse that power, right? And we've seen that a lot of times, you understand, right? There was a lot of, many times throughout, whether it's throughout history, we've seen that they come and all of a sudden they abuse the power, right? So very, very important, okay? Right? We're not going to make an apotropos, whether it's going to be women, slaves, or ktanim. But if he was the one that appointed it, meaning what happens now if the father made his butler or made his eved into the potopos? So then he's allowed to, right? He's allowed to. It should be a door, right? Why? Because kilu they're in his stead. Fine. Yes. Okay. Hau apotropos, right? There was an apotropos. That he was in the vicinity of Rabbi Meir. That he was selling, right? Karkaot, which is basically going to be, right? How do you call this? Which is going to be karka, right? Fields, right? And he was buying with them avadim. Rabbi Meir, he didn't let them. Yeah, he didn't let them. Okay. So they showed Rabbi Meir, right, in a dream. Ani laharos, right? Ve'ata livnot. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and he tells him, I'm trying to destroy and you're trying to build, which means that the dream was saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the Potropos to do something in order to get rid of all their properties. HaKadosh Baruch Hu rotze laharos et hanechasim. He wanted to destroy their properties. And Rabbi Meir is coming and is getting rid of this. Rabbi Meir didn't pay attention. Amar, why? He said, Divrei chalomot lo ma'alim velo maridin. Says dreams, they don't make a difference. Yeah, these people, they come with dreams, this, that. Wallo. It doesn't make a difference. Hanau beitrei, tigaru be'u satan. Yeah, there were two people. The satan was always around. Yeah, the whole beshim she havu kamitz badi adade. Every ben hashmashot of erev Shabbat, they were fighting with each other. Yeah, but you don't see them. Kol erev Shabbat, you don't see them. Every erev Shabbat, fighting with each other. Yeah, ikla Rabbi Meir le'atam. Rabbi Meir went over there. Yeah, he comes. Rabbi Meir goes over there. V'akvinu tzlata beshim she. For 3 weeks in a row, he grabbed him and he brought him here. He's here 3 weeks in a row. Yeah, you need another 2 times. No. He says 3 times in a row. Until when? Until he made peace. What does that mean? The second he stopped the Satan from being there 3 times, that's it. He got rid of the Satan. Shame de Kamar, you heard the Satan saying, Vai, te'afke Rabbi Meir lahu gavra mi beteh. Whoa! Rabbi Meir took away the Satan from the guy's house. Yeah, whoa! He took him out of his house. Why? They were embarrassed to start fighting him in front of Rabbi Meir. In front of Rabbi Meir, they're going to come and start doing these things. Zelo matim. So what happened? Rabbi Meir was there 3 weeks in a row. What are they going to do? You're going to start bickering. You're going to start fighting. So, okay.
Come to respect.
ההוא התפוס. Have a b'shvivut in Rabbi Shimon Levi. So he comes and he says there was an topos that he was in the vicinity of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. The Hava comes bin ar'a mezavin toreh. So he was selling fields and acquiring ox for the fields. The Lomar v'lomidi, he didn't say anything. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi didn't say anything. Sava like Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi held like Rabbi Yosef. The Tanya was he said in a Braita, Amar Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef, Mi amai lo kariti li ishti ushori shori. I never called my wife, and my ox, right? You understood? He never called his wife, and his ox, his ox. What did he do? He called his wife his ox, and he's called his ox. No. So what did he do? He says, no, ela li ishti biti. He went and he said, my wife is my house. How do we say it? Biti. Yeah, he comes and he says, nevat beti, nevat bait. Right? Nevat bait techalek shalal. Nevat bait. That's what hurts. Yeah, he comes and he says, ela lishti beiti, ul shori sadi. His shore, he called his field. So he comes and he says, so because of that, sadi. Yeah, so he comes and he says, so because of that, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, you could sell a field in order to acquire a shore, right? Because since the shore are needed in order to work the rest of the fields, so it's the same thing. Meaning that it's the same thing. Because if you're going to come and you're going to tell me that you're selling land, right? You're selling a field in order to buy an ox, you're not allowed to do that. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi kept quiet. Why? Because he held like Rabbi Yosef. Because the field is the shore. The shore is the field.
A field to buy another field?
אבל אם תקריא את הגמרא הזאת לאנשים, הם לא יבואו את זה.
למה? האישה היא הבית. היא עקרת הבית.
לא, אם אתה...
You're also allowed to sell your wife to buy a house.
לא יתמה דהבו סמיכי גבי האי סבתא. זה מעשה with יתומים. That they were smuchim by a woman, a zekena, that they were taking care of her. Yeah? So imagine, right? There was yatme. That was smuche gabe yisavta, that they were somech on this isha zekena, vehava lehu torta, and they had a parachat. So imagine the yitomim have a para, and who's the one that's taking care of them? Some zekena achat. That's some elderly woman. Shakla vezabinta nialayhu. She took it, and she sold it. Yeah, she sold the para for them. Yeah, the para went kapara for them. Atu akrovim lekamed Rav Nachman. So the Krovim, they come in front of Nachman, right? And they told him, what is this that she could start selling the properties of the Yitomim? Yeah? So he comes and he says, Amar lehu, he told them, Yitomim, shesamchu etzel balabait tznan. What we're talking about Yitomim, that they were somech on a balabait, right? And therefore, even though the balabait was not appointed, right? But he's like an apotropos. Because the Yitomim are somchim alav. So to hear the fact that they're being somech on this savta, she's considered like an apotropos, and therefore she's allowed to come and she's allowed to sell. So says the Gemara, right? Sorry, this is the family members of the closest of kin of the Yitomim. They say v'ha yaker. What are you talking about? This para, right? Ever since they sold it, it went up in price. The para went up in price. So therefore, what's going on over here? Meaning she's losing them, she's making them lose out. It says, no, Birshuta de Lokeach yakar. It went up in price in the Reshuta de Lokeach. Not in the Mocher, not by the Yitomim. They sold it, now it went up in price. So says Gemara, Vehalo nekite deme. The Yitomim, they still didn't take the money yet. So if they still didn't take the money, so therefore, technically speaking, they should take a higher price now. Amalu, he said, in Ken, if so, Halo de Rav Chanilai bar Idi Amar Shmuel, this is like Rav Chanilai bar Idi Amar Shmuel, Ta'amar Chanilai bar Idi Amar Shmuel, Nichse Yitomim aren ke'ekdesh. Nichse Yitomim are considered like ekdesh. velo mikne ella bekaspa. And it says they're not going to be purchased only with kesef, right? Which means that just like nichse gdesh are not acquired unless it's going to be kesef, so too nichse diot are going to be acquired with meshicha. Therefore, the selling of the para was not finished, and the yitomim could retract because there was no real how do you call this, a sale yet. So since there was no real sale, they could retract and they could take it back. Chamre de Rabbana Ukva Yatma, the wine of Rabbeinu Ukva. He was a yatom that was sold by the potropos when he was smaller. Masechet, they went and they moved it be'arba'a arba'a, when the mechid was 4 zuzim for every single barrel. Yakeh then went up in price. The kam b'shita shita came out 6 zuz every single barrel. So Atu lekamid Rav Nachman, the potropos and the purchasers, they came in front of Nachman. He said, Amalu, he told them, Hainu derachinila baridi amrachin marim Shmuel. They say tomim aren kedesh ve'lam mikne ela bekaspa. So he says it's only going to be acquired with money and not meshicha. Meaning, even though these guys went and they did a kinyan meshicha, which means they dragged the barrel, like they moved the barrel, they need to pay. As long as they didn't pay, nada. Yeah, you don't pay, you get nothing. You heard. So what happens? There's nothing there. So they can retract.
It's a dish. Meshicha doesn't work. You have to,
yes.
to pay.
So he comes now and he says like this. So mashuch pere miyatme. He says imashchu, right? Lekuchot. 1 second. Imashchu lekuchot perot shel hayitomim al menat liknotam. So imagine right now they went and they pulled it. They did meshicha, right, on the perot of yitomim in order to buy it. Yakur went up in price. Hainu derachanilai baridi. Zul, if it went down in price, lo yekoach ediot chamum ekdesh. It's not fitting that the koach of a regular person should be greater than ekdesh. So for just like when a person is buying something from another person, right, that's going to be bought with meshicha, he cannot retract. So to here, he cannot be mechayev, right? Kol sheken that he cannot, that he could retract and say he doesn't want it. So therefore, even though the tzchefetz became cheaper, chayav hakonel l'shalem et mechira gavoa at the time of the meshicha. Okay, which means that here, mamash, it's like ekdesh, that the guy is losing out. So the guy always has the lower hand. He went and he did meshicha, right? After doing meshicha, the price went up. He now has to pay the higher price, or if not, it retracts. Let's say the price goes down. He still has to pay the regular price that he did at the time of meshicha. So another case was they went and they did meshicha to the fruits of the yitomim. Yaker went up in price. Lo yeh koach hediot chamum ekdesh zul savar mina hainu Rav Chanina baridi. So Amaleh Rav Shisha bered Ravidi, says Rav Shisha the son of Ravidi, hara'a hi ledidhu. Right, this is actually bad for the yitomim. Why? Because sometimes they need fruits. Right, they won't give it to them until they actually give them the fruits. Right, until they give the fruits, because the sellers, they want to protect themselves from Hefsed. So therefore, the tovat yitomim is going to be as something bad for them. So yavu yatme zuzeh peri. There was a third case where they gave the yitomim money for the perot, but they didn't do meshicha. And then afterwards, it went down in price. Zul, it went down in price. So what happened? So he comes and he says, so ever since a regular person that he pays with money, right, he could retract as long as he didn't do meshicha. So to here, all of a sudden, the same thing, they could retract. If it went up in price, so it's back to the yitomim, right? Right? Why? Because they could say, right? Your chita got burnt in aliyah. Which means if we're going to say that they acquire the fruits, even though there was no meshicha, right, and they're still in the house of the seller. So if you imagine right now, there's a fire in the house of the seller. You could say, I'm sorry, everything went up in flames. There's nothing here. Okay, last case. Yavu lehu zuzel yatme apede. Right, again, if they're going to give money to the yitomim for perot, iyakar, and then went up in price, lo yeh koach hediot chamum ekdesh. It can be that it's going to be better than ekdesh. Because the yitomim that they're like ekdesh, they could retract. Zul, if it went down in price. We thought to say, right? So Amaleh Rav Shisha ben Davidi, it says Rav Shisha ben Davidi, The same thing. Harai, it's bad for them. But sometimes they need money. They'll never pay until they get the fruits. Meaning, okay, fine. Now that you just said that the Yatomim have a special halacha, people are not going to pay them. People are not going to give them fruits. Why? Because nobody wants to lose. So they're not going to do anything until it's 100% a sale. Because they don't want to do something and then they have the upper hand until something happens. No. Right now. Okay? By the way, there you have a sikum, an entire chart. There's a sikum over there. I'm sure you have it in English, no? No? Okay, we have like a whole chart about mashchu perot me'yetomim, hayetomim mashchu perot, hayetomim gave the money, or the other people give the money to yetomim. And then, then what happened? It became more expensive, cheaper, expensive, cheaper, expensive, cheaper, right? The one, what would happen in a idiot, what would happen in a Ekdesh, and what would happen in yetomim. That's a beautiful chart, just so, like a summary. Oh, you have it there. Okay, so here we have it inside the Gemara. Okay, fine. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi now comes and he says, Anna v'Rav Kahana chatmin al shtara de'ime dezira yatma. Do you know, Rav Kahana and I, we signed on a document of the mother, right? That means they were like on edim, on a shtar mechira that was written to the mother of Zeira, right? That she was a yatom. Tizavne ara lekarga. They sold it, right? That she sold the fields of her children, the Yatomim, in order to pay different types of taxes. Bila achrasta, even without mentioning it. Meaning in the olden days, especially, you would have to actually mention, the field is up for sale. Why? Because if you start putting it in a market, so you could get the best price for it. But if you're just going to sell it to the first person that comes or anybody that comes, many times you don't have anybody coming and haggling to get a better, to give a better deal. So whoever comes, we give, you just sell. So that's like you're liquidating it. You know what I mean? Like you're losing on the sale. The Amri Nardab, as Nardab says, the karga, which is basically to do with the taxes, velemezune, or from mezunot, velikvura, or to bury the father, is avnina b'lo achrasa. You're allowed to sell it without actually even coming and how do you call it, publicizing it or doing, putting it up on the market. Okay, fine. Amram tzaba'a, apotropa diat me'ava. So Amram, he was a tzabai. You know what a tzabai is? Yeah, he was a painter. Okay, he used to dye things. A dyer. Nobody would say dyer nowadays. He's a painter. Right? He uses dyes in order to color things. Right? So he says, apotropa diat me'ava. So therefore, he was an apotropos of Yatomim. Atu krovim lekamed Rav Nachman. So the family members came in front of Rav Nachman. Amri lein, they told them, right? So what happened was they said, Kalavi shubitkasem yatme. So what? He's getting clothing and everything from Yatomim. What's going on over here? Amar lehu, he told them, Ki echad delishtama mile. Says, what are you talking about? You know why? In order that people should pay attention to him. Which means like this. If you're a businessman and you're not going to use the money of the business to dress properly, what's going to happen? They're going to look at you as like, who are you? You don't give a good impression. If you come well dressed and this and that, so now, you look like you have a face of a bechor, you have a face of a rich person, in a sense. So what happens is, right? He comes and he says, he comes and he says like this. He says, so in such a scenario, right? He comes and he says, right? He did it purposely, so they come and they're able to listen to them. He was eating and drinking, right, foods, right, and nothing was happening. Yeah, he didn't evaluate what he took and everything. A more mitziyah. I'm going to say that Amram, he found a mitziyah. Yeah, and therefore, right, it was very, very expensive. So he was eating and drinking from it. So therefore, it comes out that was he's taking out more than his money. For sure, that's so says the Gemara, what are you talking about? He's making them lose. So Amalehu, he told the Krovim, bring me witnesses, I'll get rid of him. You want to get rid of him? Bring me witnesses. You get rid of him. So he says, says Ravuna, Chavrim Mishmei de Rav, our friend in front of Rav, apotropos de mafsid, misalkilim. Be'emet, if you have an apotropos, right, that he's coming, he's making them lose money, get rid of him. Get rid of him. The Eat was stated, אפוטרופו דמפסיד, רב הונא אמר מסלקין לב, ורב שילה אמרה, לא מסלקין לב. הלכתה, what's הלכה? מסלקין לב, you get rid of it.
Even if it was designed by the father, designated by the father.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. Yep. Okay. So now he comes and he says like this. He says, okay, he says as follows. Apotropos, sheminahu avi yitomim, yishava. So, the two dots, an apotropos, that the father was the one that appointed him. So then he has to swear. My time, what's the reason? Right? The Mishnah at the beginning. Well, there are two opinions in the Mishnah. There were two opinions in the Mishnah. Right? No. The contradiction has nothing to do with this. Yeah, before the second sheet of Chicago, whoever it is. Okay. He comes now and he says like this. Yeah, so he comes and he says like this. He says, what's the reasoning? He loved it le'anah lo apotropos. Right? He says, if right now the apotropos wouldn't have anah from the father of the Yitomim, he would have never been maskim. And therefore, mishum shvuah lo ati liyumnueh. So because of the shvuah that you're going to put it until the end, he's not going to stop himself. Right? Everyone understood what happened? One more time. Here we just said that the father was the one that appointed him as a apotropos. The guy agreed. So now, we thought that if the guy already agreed, right? So why would he swear at the end? Very simple.
Because in agreed, there is greed.
No, because if he already agreed, it means that what? That for sure you already benefited from the father. Right? If I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, if you don't owe me something, what are you going to tell me? No. Why? Lo matim. Right? Lo matim. Right? But because you're obligated so many favors back to me, so now whatever I come and I tell you, you're going to agree. So he comes and he says, that's the exact same thing. That's the exact same thing. That's the exact same thing with the father and the
for mitzvah.
It's not whoever said it's a mitzvah. Right? At the end of the day, you're accepting upon yourself a headache. If you're accepting upon yourself a headache, that you're the one that's always losing, why in the world are you going to take it on?
Benefit.
Right? You're doing it for free. So what happens? So for sure, I owed him something. So if I owed him something and I accepted it, so now because of the shavua, it's not going to stop me. Why is it not going to stop me? Because at the end of the day, I still owed him. I owed him. So therefore that's why you would still have to swear, even though it's the father doing it. But if it's midu betin, then no lo yishava. Why? He's doing a favor for the bedin. And if right now he's going to obligated to do shavua, right? He won't do it. If betin are going to ask you do a favor, so listen, you could do chesed, but I'm going to tell you no. But now you have to start swearing. I don't know. If it's going to be the father that's asking, that means you owe him. You owe him. So even if I'm going to tell you afterwards, listen, at the end he's going to have to swear. It's not going to take away what he owes him. So he'll still do it. That's the shita of the Mishnah, the stam of the Mishnah. Abba Shaul says, Chiluf advarim, flip it. Says, my tama, what's the reasoning? Minu betin yishava. If the betin are the ones that appoint him, you have to swear. Why are the betin choosing him? You know why the betin are choosing him? Because it means he's a trustworthy guy. If betin are coming and they're choosing him, he gets he's a trustworthy guy. He gets a gushpanka from the betin. With that hana'ah, with that benefit that he's getting, that the betin are saying that this guy's a trustworthy guy, he's going to do it even if he has to swear. Why? Listen, people like come out. People like it. Here, you know what it is that you have a betin coming and saying that this guy is such a good guy? You know, he's not just a sleeper. He's trustworthy. He's good. He's this. You understand? Yeah, also. So he says, so because of the Shavua, he's not going to stop him. However, though, if it's the father of the Tomim, he doesn't have to. Why? He's just doing a favor for the father. So if you're going to now obligate him to do a Shavua, he won't do a favor for the father. Okay? Meaning, if he's going to become a trust, how do you call it?
Trustee.
No, the trustee is the one, is it's a trustee, or the trustee is the, I don't remember.
Trustee.
The trustee? So as Ronen actually was correct, right? And he said it's a trustee. Yeah. So he said, right, that he was correct that he said a trustee. So this person becomes a trustee, right? What happened was that he was doing a favor for the father. But that doesn't mean that he's a trustworthy person for everybody. Could be he was trusted by the father, but it doesn't give him credentials. It doesn't give him anything. So therefore, it's not. So therefore, if you're going to put him a shavua, he's not going to do it. Psak halacha, Amar Rav Chanan bar Ami Amar Shemuel, Hilchata kabashaul. The halacha is like kabashaul, which is chiluf advarim, which means if Bet Din appoint him, shavua. Father appoint him, no shavua. Okay. Yeah. Tanya, we learned in the Braita Elmaleh ben Yaakov Omer, Ze veze yishava. No, they both have to swear. V'halacha kitbarav, and halacha zaken. So Tanya Rav Tachlifa bar Marav Kamed Rabbi Avu. Apotropos sheminu avi yetomim yishava mipnei shu noseh sachar. He's saying because he's getting money from it, which means, and that's why he cannot come and he's not going to stop, right? Mashenken b'apotropos, they came and they did it, so he's going to be patur from a shavua. Right? But if you're going to come, you're going to obligate him, right? So therefore, he's not going to do it. So therefore, what happens is he's getting rewards for it. He's getting money for it. So therefore, that's why it's going to be a different halacha. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh. So he tells Rav Tachlifa, so what? You're going to bring a kli, which is called a kav, and you're going to come and you're going to take it for your reward as well. Which means you're domeh like a mekabel sachar, right? Which means that if you already accepted it, right, we're going to say that you got hana'ah from the father, so you were like him. Right now, you don't get paid by being a trustee. Nowadays, obviously, it's different. Nowadays, the guys are the trustees; they're getting all the money, right? They're taking all the money, right? But in the olden days, the trustee, he wasn't taking any money, but it was like he took money. Why was like he took money? Because if he agreed to do it, it meant that he already accepted something from the father. It means that he already had some hana'ah, he already had some tovah. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it. It just doesn't make sense. You know how much headaches there are, and they always come after you, and it doesn't make sense. So because of that, he already accepted it. Fine. Next Mishnah. Mishnah says, "Hamtameh, v'hamdamea, v'hamnasech, v'shogeg patur." Which means like this. In all these cases, sorry, thank you. In all these cases, you just did something which is called a hezek sheronikar. You damaged, but the damage is not recognizable. Meaning, if I come, right, and let's say I was sleeping for half an hour, it happens, yeah. People come, and now I touch something, so it becomes tameh, right? So I have to do netilat yadayim again. But let's say it's not even talking about that tumah. We're talking about like mamash, a real tumah. Right, tumat met, whatever it is, and he comes, right, and he touches something, and he makes it tameh. If you look at the person, do you see any difference? No difference. But says zalacham tameh, you're going to be mitameh something, right, of your friends. Let's say it's perot, and you made it get lost now. Or mdamea, right, you mix them together, right, chulin in it, right, or minasech, you made it yain nesech. If you did it b'shogeg, you're going to be patur, right, from paying back. If you did it b'mezid, you're going to be chayav to pay back. Says the Gemara, but it was stated, minasech. What is minasech? Rav Amar lemasech mamash. Rav Mamash, she was minasech to avodah zarah. Shmuel Amar, no, he mixed it. Me'arev. He mixed the yain nesech, right? The yain with the yain nesech of his friends. And that's how it became a soup. So Manda Amar me'arev, according to Manda Amar me'arev, my Tawal Omar, why didn't he say minasech? Amar lecha, he's going to tell you minasech, kim liv d'rabba mineh. If he brought it to avodah zarah, anyway, you're killing him, so he doesn't have to pay. If he's doing nisuch to avodah zarah, you're going to kill him. You're going to give him the most powerful punishment, which is death. What do I care about no money? You're killing him. What do you have money now? Right? The other one, right, which is basically going to be the one of Yom Nesech, the Rabbi Yomi, like Rabbi Yomi. He says, when did he acquire it? He acquired it from the time of Agba'ah. But he's not going to be chayav, right, until the time of the Nisuch. Manda Amar Minasech, but according to the Manda Amar Minasech, my time, why didn't he say Me'arev? Elmaleh is going to tell you Me'arev, Hainu Midamea. He says Me'arev is Midamea. It's the same thing, that you're mixing things together. And that's why he comes and he says that it's going to be the same thing.